Okay, well, good morning, everybody. It's great to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining with us. I do want to say, I see a few new faces around the room, and I want you to know we're in the middle, or actually at the end, of a series that we started this summer that we've titled Summer in the Psalms. And so we've been focusing on Psalms, but in particular, the Psalms of Ascent. And these are some Psalms that these ancient pilgrims would sing when they would make their way up to Jerusalem for the annual festivals. About 3 times a year that they would make their way up, and they would sing these songs. And there's just some really, really practical things that we can actually take away from these Psalms that we today can learn and that we can apply to our lives. And in the summer, when things are kind of slowing down and schedules are kind of loose, I think it's just that I hope that you've enjoyed the series. It's been good for you. I was talking to my wife. One of the things that for me personally, I've read Psalms in my life many times, but what has really, really stood out to me in this is that these Psalms give language to our souls. That's the real big thing that we see here. Like when you're communicating to God and you're sharing and you're crying out to him and this gives you the language that you need to be able to express these emotions, these things that you're going through. And so as you dive into Psalms on your own, just know that that's one of just the beauties of these songs and what they do. And so I want to open with this right here. I want to share a personal story of a race that I ran several years ago, okay? In my early 30s, I signed up for a triathlon. It was my first and only triathlon that I've ever run. And this was a sprint triathlon, okay? So it's not like Ironman. It's not one of those crazy distances or anything like that. It's basically, and it is just for anybody who doesn't know, a triathlon, it's multi-sport, right? There's 3 sports. You've got to swim, you got to cycle, and you got to run. And it's all kind of combined. So it starts off with this half-mile swim in the lake. And then you come in and you jump on a bike and you go for a 13-mile bike ride. And then you jump off the bike and then you go for a 3.1-mile run. But it's just as fast as you can go, right? So I trained for this thing. I trained for a couple months. And I worked really, really hard. I was at the gym. I was at the aquatic center, just doing everything that I could. And the day finally came. I'm out there on the beach. This is at Lake Lanier, and ready for this shotgun start. And I thought I had everything prepared. I was ready, right? As soon as the gun goes off, you just jump in the water and you go. But I didn't realize with a sprint triathlon, it's just a much different start. All your 30 and 40-year-old men jump in the water together and you just go. With an Ironman, you've got a lot of distance, so you're starting off slow, you're taking your time, you're spreading out, and you're going. With a sprint, you're all just diving in there and going crazy at the same time, and it's kind of condensed. And so I wasn't prepared for that. The gun goes off, we dive in the water, and it's like if you were in a pool and somebody's right next to you just splashing water all over your face. That's what it's like. I mean, people are just beating the water right next to you. It's crazy chaotic. I'm swimming as fast as I can, just trying to get around these guys. I turn to my left, I get just a face full of water. I turn to my right, another face full of water. And I'm just like, surely I'm going to get through this here in a second. I'm less than 100 yards into this race, and a dude kicks me across the face and knocks my goggles off. My contacts, I wear contacts, they roll into the back of my eyes. So I can't see. I cannot see. I can hardly breathe, and it gets worse. I promise you, it gets worse. After that, I feel this dude climbing up above me, and I get pushed underneath the water. Guys are swimming on top of me, and I'm submerged in a lake. It's dark. You can't tell the bottom from the top. And honestly, I'm choking on water. I know there are lifeguards. They're in these canoes, but the canoe's like 100 yards away, and all you see is this right here. If I throw my hands, it don't matter. And I started to panic. Like I knew in that moment, I am in extreme, extreme danger. I was choking. I was blinded. I felt my heart rate going through the roof, and I was underneath a dude, all right? I knew in that moment, man, in my heart, I knew unless there is a miracle, unless somebody reaches down and helps me out of this right here, this is it. That's honestly how I felt. How many of you have been in a position in your life where you felt like, unless there's just some intervention, this is it? That's where I was at. And in that moment, I decided, you know what? I'm going to flip onto my back and forget it. I'm not even going to swim. I'm just gonna float. I flipped onto my back. I looked up to the sun and I just started praying. God, please help me through this. And I just felt guys just slapping off of me, just flying by me. I'm just sitting, I'm not even swimming. I'm just floating. And I sat there until every single body passed me. And then I flipped over onto my belly and I could see all the commotion up ahead of me. I could see the buoy. And I just started to dog paddle. I mean, I'm beat already. It just started. I'm just dog paddling to the buoy and then back around. Eventually, I get to the beach, worn out, exhausted. And I come up out of the water. My time on the swim, 4 times worse than any practice swim I've ever had up to that point. But I was alive. And I just went on to ride the bike, make up whatever time I could, run the race. I finished the race. I'll never forget that race. And it's not because of some PR. I didn't set a personal best. I didn't set a record that day, nothing like that. But I learned a very, very valuable lesson that day. And it's the same lesson that we're gonna learn right here in Psalm 124. And it's this right here, that God's protective hand is over his people. His protective hand is over his people. Your life, my life, our lives, they're not just the result of our efforts. They're a result and they're a testimony of God's divine intervention. He has intervened. Without his active protection in your life, without him doing what he does, every single one of you would be utterly consumed. And we're gonna explore that today, okay? So if you haven't already turn to Psalm 124. Aaron, thank you so much for reading that for us this morning in its entirety. I'm just gonna kind of break it up a little bit. Psalm 124, and let's just look at how it begins. Verse 1 says this, it says, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side. The very first thing that we see in this psalm is that we are vulnerable. We see our vulnerability. And if you look at this chapter, this psalm, the first 5 verses really, really focus on this point. They focus on our vulnerability. So I want you to write this down, any note takers, if you want to write down point number 1, it's this right here. Recognize your deep need. Recognize your deep need. The psalmist cries out, he's saying, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side, he's showing this dependence and this vulnerability that we as humans have, that life presents challenges after challenges to us. And some of these challenges that we face, they're absolutely and completely outside of our control. We just don't have the ability in and of ourselves to make it through some of the obstacles unless there is that divine intervention. And the imagery that the psalmist here, which by the way, the psalmist is David, he wrote this one, okay? The imagery that he paints, it's not like some minor setback. That's not what we see. We see this complete destruction right here. Look at the language that he uses. He says we would have been swallowed alive by enraged enemies. He says we would have been overwhelmed by swollen waters. These are big threats, right? This is a threat to your identity. This is a threat to your life. This is a threat to your hope. And if you think about these Israelites, if you think about the context that they're in, they can remember their fathers and they can remember their forefathers and kind of the collective memory that the people carry is what they've come through. It's their story, their history. So they remember the Exodus from Egypt, right? The Israelites remember that. They remember when Pharaoh and his army is chasing them and they were almost swallowed alive by him. They remember the Red Sea and how God intervened and he parted those overwhelming waters. They remember the Jordan River and how that stood between them and the Promised Land. That is an impassable border. The only way around is around it, right? and he held up the water so that they could cross over into the promised land. So these are the things that they're referring to when they say men are out to get us and that kind of thing. They knew the enemies that they had overcome century after century after century. I mean, they had the Philistines, the Midianites, the Moabites, the Assyrians. All of these different people groups were threatening their existence. Today, the Iranians threatening to wipe them off the planet, right? So they remember what God's saved them from. But there's another crucial point right here too that you need to see. It's much more than just that right there. David is emphasizing here, it's not just this danger to them and to their physical being, to their physical bodies. It was to their souls. It's to their souls. He uses that word soul a couple times right here in the first 5 verses. I mean, that reference is important. He's saying it's not just the vulnerability of your little short lifespan. It's not just this earthly peril. It's the overwhelming flood of sin and its consequence, eternal separation from your Creator. That is ultimately what we need salvation from. And there is no human strength. There is no human effort. There is nothing in and of us that we could do to save us from that right there. Our most desperate need in everything that we do, our most desperate need is not temporal. It is eternal. It is that we need to be saved from sin and from eternal separation, from spiritual death. So that's this language that we see right here in Psalms, like that's what it's talking about. You can look at these other Psalms. Listen to Psalms 18, verse 4 and 5. The pangs of death surrounded me, and the floods of ungodliness made me afraid. Psalm 69, 1 and 2. Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. They're not just talking about physical water here. This is a spiritual imagery. This is what we see. We're talking about sin and sin's consequence. It's separation. So I want you to think about that for a minute. And oftentimes we can read these and we can get so literal that we miss the real point here, the spiritual point here. When was the last time that you felt spiritually overwhelmed? That you felt spiritually overwhelmed, like you felt caught in the current of temptation or despair or doubt in your faith, those things. Think about those times. It is God and it is his hand alone who pulled you out of that. And maybe that's where you're at right now. Maybe some of you might be right there looking for deliverance right now. You may be struggling through some doubt in your faith. You may be struggling through some sort of despair. It is God's hand and it is his alone that can intervene and that can pull you out of that. And the very first thing that the psalmist is saying in this psalm, what he's trying to point out to us, is that we need to recognize how vulnerable we are. We need to recognize our vulnerability. You are finite. You are desperate. You are in desperate need. And it is your soul that's desperate. It is your soul that is dependent. So David's pointing this out, the psalmist, and these guys, this is what they're remembering when they're singing this Psalm of Ascent. And so he gives them this profound vulnerability, that's the first thing that he says, that he shows them in these first 5 verses. And then he kind of shifts. He takes a pivot and he begins to sing this song of praise. Because we see it's not just like David's given this sigh of relief. He is declaring, hey, this desperate thing that we need, God has intervened and he has given it to us. And we should respond with thankfulness. Look at what he says in verse 6. Blessed be the Lord, who has not given us as prey to their teeth. And in verse 6 and verse 7, what we see here is this intervention, the very thing that we so desperately need. So I want you to write down the second point right here, okay? The second point is this, that we experience God's mighty rescue. we experience God's mighty rescue. See, God doesn't just allow us to survive. He prevented us from becoming the enemy's meal, from becoming lunch. He's the one that prevented that. I mean, he rescued us from the jaws of destruction. That's what, this is the language here, you know? I mean, he's painting this picture. The psalmist is saying that prey to their teeth. What do you think about when you think prey to their teeth? You think of a predator holding the prey in their teeth, right? In that kind of a scenario, the prey is not getting loose. They're not escaping from that right there. It's virtually impossible. And he's saying God has withheld us from that fate. It's showing us that God's protection is not passive. It's active. It's mighty. It's deliberate. He is protecting us. And then verse 7, you see kind of the same exact picture. He says, our soul has escaped as a bird from the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we've escaped. You know, a fowler's snare, it's designed to trap that prey, right? And again, if a bird's caught in that, it's not getting loose. Its impending doom is upon it. But what we see here is God doesn't just take the bird and unwrap it from the snare. He snaps the snare. He breaks the snare. What that tells me is this danger, this spiritual danger that we are all due, right? It's not just like we evaded it, that we just got around it. The power to harm you is broken. The actual power behind it is completely broken. That is speaking to God's definitive, complete nature, that he and he alone can deliver you completely from the very force that seeks to destroy your life, from that spiritual force. It's this active protection. That's what we see right here, his active protection. And you know what happens? A lot of times, this blessing is something that we are completely oblivious to. Like we take it for granted. We don't even realize these unseen dangers that are around us, this spiritual battle that's taking place day in and day out, the harm that is inevitable, but that he's shielding us from, that he's protecting us from. A lot of times we'll attribute it to luck, you know, or maybe to preparation. We've just prepared so much for this event or what's going on in our life that, you know, that's why we're safe and secure and all this other stuff. And we don't give credit to the one and the only one who truly is protecting your life, physical life, and more importantly, your spiritual life, your eternity. And the Bible testifies of this time and time again. We see, again, this language of God's unwavering commitment to his people. Listen to Psalm 91, verse 3. It says, surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler, there it is again, and from the perilous pestilence. Psalm 23:4, I think many of us are familiar with this one. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. So just pause for a second. Like, think about this. You know some of the dangers that you've been in your life, and maybe some of the spiritual dangers that you've been in your life. But think about how many others you're just completely unaware of that you're facing day in and day out, that God is shielding you from, that he's protecting you from, that his hand was right there keeping you from being consumed. His presence, his power, it's impenetrable. It is your shield. And honestly, what David's saying here is acknowledge that and be grateful for that. Be thankful for his unseen protection in your life. That's honestly the proper response to this, is to thank him daily for your life, for your very life. the fact that you're here. So David gives us, he gives us this account of these dangers, this vulnerability that we have, that we've escaped it. And then he shows us this divine protection that we've received from God. And then the chapter kind of comes to the last verse, and it culminates with a declaration. It's a declaration of absolute trust in God. Listen to what he says in verse 8. He says, our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. And this last verse of chapter 124, it gives us our final point for today. I want you to write this down, okay? Here it is. Trust in the name of the Lord. Trust in his name. This verse, verse 8, it's the anchor for chapter 124. This is the anchor. But you know what? In this whole series and everything that we've been talking about, this might as well be the anchor for the entire series. Trust in the name of the Lord. If you remember, when we began this, we looked at Psalm 121, and it starts like this right here. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the creator of heaven and earth. It's very similar language, right? And it's very, very intentional. He's reinforcing this foundational truth. And it's something that the Israelites, they needed to remember. They needed to hear it as they made their way into the city. It's something that we need to hear and we need to remember too. So what's it mean? What does it mean to trust in his name? What's it mean to trust in the name of the Lord? In Bible times, a name meant something. A name really did. It represented the character of that person. It represented their character. It represented their authority. It represented just the essence of who that person is. So if you're going to invoke the name of the Lord, if that's what you're going to do, then you're basically you're claiming his power, his faithfulness, his wisdom, his love. I mean, you are claiming his nature. It means your help's not coming from some vague source out in the sky, way out there. It's coming in a living, active person, himself. And then it says, who is the Lord? He's the one who made heaven and earth, right? We hear that. He's the one who made heaven and earth. That's not just like an addendum. It's not just like a catchy little add-on that we're going to put on the end of his name. What that is saying is it's making this statement about his sovereignty. It's claiming his unparalleled power, that there is no one like him. If he created everything that you know out of absolutely nothing, then nothing is too difficult for him. There's nothing that you face. There's no enemy that's too strong. There is no flood that is too great. There is no snare that is too cunning for the creator of the cosmos. Nothing is too powerful for him. And he stands over here outside of this creation that he's made, but he intimately, intimately cares for it. He holds it. He holds us in his hands. He is sovereign. He is in complete control of things that are visible, of things that are invisible. You know, we have our solutions. We got our solutions to problems. And some of those solutions are great, but they're finite. And they are fallible. And they are fleeting. We all have X amount of time and then we're gone, right? His help, it's infinite. It's infallible. It's eternal. It's everlasting. And that should give you such faith. I mean, that should give you such assurance. Like you should have freedom. If you really realize that right there, you should have freedom from fear. You should have freedom from anxiety, because you're relying on the only one that is truly, truly, truly capable of giving you ultimate deliverance. It is through him and him alone. Remember Psalm 121, my help comes from the Lord, right? who made heaven and earth. Think about Paul. Think about him talking in Romans 8:31. If God is for us, who can be against us? I mean, the call throughout the Bible right here, it's clear. Place your trust in his absolute ability to help you. No matter what you're facing, no matter how impossible it might be, he is the one that deserves your trust, that you can trust completely. And he is sovereign over everything, over all of creation. When you're facing an absolutely overwhelming challenge, when you feel vulnerable, when you feel exhausted, when you feel like you have absolutely no other options, remember where your help resides. It's in this majestic, all-powerful, ever-present name of the Lord, the one who made heaven and earth. He is never failing. He is never failing. He broke the snare. He diverted the flood. He shielded us from the enemy's teeth, right? And he does that in our everyday lives, and he does that for all of eternity. It's all because of him. Every single thing that we go through, it's everything that we've learned in these Psalms, it is because of him. It ultimately points back to him. And it points back to this one truth. This is what I want you to see. Every Psalm that we have studied so far this summer has pointed back to this reality. We depend on him. We depend on God. If you've been with us at any point through June and July, you've gotten to see some facet of that truth. Psalm 121, I lift my eyes, where does my help come from? It comes from him. Psalm 122, we talked about the joy of gathering together, right? Of coming together in his presence with his people. Psalm 133, we talked about unity and how unity is good and it is pleasant. Why? Because it follows his good nature, his good nature. We're dependent on that nature. Psalm 127, we talked about, hey, unless the Lord builds the house, our efforts, they're completely in vain. Unless he is the architect of your life, what you're doing, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's all because of him. Psalm 125, Pastor Terry talked about our trust being in the Lord and as unshakable as Mount Zion. Why? Because it is founded in him. He is the solid foundation. It depends on him. And last week we talked about crying out from the depths, crying out from the darkest places in your life and resting and knowing that he'll come and visit you right in those places. Why? Because he's there. He's ever present. He's always there. We depend on him. And every single one of these songs, as these pilgrims made their way up to Jerusalem, they were reminded of this right here. It was a stepping stone for them, just remembering how dependent they are on him and how much they need him. And it prepared their hearts, just as it prepares ours today. And honestly, it prepares them too for the truth that is found in this one chapter right here, just in this very chapter. And that is that we can trust in the name of the Lord, that we can trust him no matter what we go through. Your life is a testimony of his divine intervention, of his protection. Without that, you'd be completely lost. You would be utterly consumed. And so what I want to do is this. It's super simple. Just as we walk away from this series, as we walk away from this chapter right here of trusting in the name of the Lord, I just want you to think about how to respond to that. How should I, when I read this, how should I respond to Psalm 124? I'll give you three quick ways to respond, okay? Number one is this. Remember God's rescue. Don't forget it. He's faithful. He has been faithful. So make it a practice to bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefit. Make that a daily practice. Like actively remember how he has protected you, how he has guided you, what he has brought you out of, how he comforts you when you are hurt. how he has saved you. Whatever you got to do, keep a journal. Keep a journal and just write every day just what it is that you're thankful to God for, what you remember that he's done for you. And share your story. The benefit of church, like when we come together like this, it's to share what God's doing in our lives. That's how we remember. That's how we build this like altar of remembrance, is remember, write it down, speak about it, talk about it. Make sure you don't forget. It's easy, man, when life gets stressful and it gets quick to forget about all that he's doing for you. Don't forget. Number 2, live in gratitude. David is emphasizing this like crazy. Like we have these memories. We remember what God's done, and that should fuel this deep, heartfelt emotion of just thank you, God. Thank you for what you've done in my life. That should be the natural posture of our heart. We should constantly be living in that. Like your whole life, every single breath that you take, your salvation from sin and death, it testifies to God's faithfulness in your life. That's why he says, like when he opens up and he says, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side, and then David says, let Israel now say, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side. He says it again, right? What he's doing, he's saying, this is a personal conviction for me. And it also needs to be a communal conviction for all of us. We all need to come together and not just remember him, but thank him. There's no greater thanks than when we come together and we worship together and we thank him for his goodness, and we're living the life that we're supposed to live as worshipful beings to him. So remember God's rescue, live in gratitude. And lastly, walk in dependence, not independent. Walk in dependence. Depend on him. Because the same God who delivered you from whatever he's delivered you from is the same God who's going to deliver you today and tomorrow. He's everlasting. He's always going to be right there with you. Your creator is sovereign. He is in control of all things, and he deserves your trust. He deserves to be trusted. Lamentations tells us through the Lord's mercies, we are not consumed because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. So as we close this chapter, Psalm 124, and it says, our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Every single one of us should be smiling and should remember that name. That name is Jesus. His name is Jesus. Your God has not only been on your side, but he came down from heaven to earth in the person of Jesus Christ. And he did that to fight your ultimate battle. He did that to secure your eternal victory and to bring you safely home to him. Your help's not in some vague supernatural being, some thing, object way up in the sky. That's not it. Your help is in a person. It's in a Savior. It's in a King. His name is Jesus Christ. He is the Son of God. He is the one who loves you and gave himself for you. So our response as we end our summer in the Psalms, let's remember to be thankful for all that he has done, for all that he has brought us through, for this ultimate salvation that we have received that we don't deserve. But let's also just stand amazed at the gospel. Let's just stand amazed at the gospel that the creator of the universe, God Almighty, is for you because of Jesus, because of him. That's what summer in the Psalms is all about. That's what it reminds us. So if you will, just bow your heads, and I'm just going to pray with you as we close. Father, we just thank you for your goodness in our lives. Lord, I thank you that you are sovereign, that you are in control of all things at all times. The little things, the big things things we understand, the things we can't comprehend. God, I just ask that you would intervene right now in every soul in this room. Lord, that we would be reminded of your provision, of your goodness, of your grace. Father, that we would be thankful for it, that we would live lives of gratitude, Lord, that are constantly just glorifying you for who you are and for what you're doing, and that we would point others to the name that is above all other names. Lord, that we would be so dependent on you that it would just be obvious that others would want to follow you as a result. God, help us to be the people that you've called us to be. Lord, I pray a personal prayer right now for Natalie Childers and for her children. Lord, that is a family that has stood strong in this community for a long time, who's going through unfathomable pain right now. And Lord, you told us that greater love hath no man than to give up his life for others. Lord, I know that Chase has died a hero. But Lord, I pray that his family would experience the love that he offered. And God, that in this moment of their desperate need, that you would reach down and that you would care and that you would provide for this family. Lord, as a collective body, we ask this on behalf of our sister and her children. We ask that you do that. And Lord, in a spiritual sense, I pray the same exact thing over every person in this room. God, that if there's anyone in here who has not accepted the rescue that you offer, that we would. And Lord, that lives would be changed and that we would follow you wholeheartedly. Lord, we love you. We thank you for this time in your presence. And we ask that you guide us in Jesus' name. We're going to close in worship as we have each time during this series. I just want you to just worship right there at your seat. The altar's open. You're welcome to come down here. If you do not have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, if you cannot remember a time in your life when you just submitted, you just gave up to him and said, hey, I want to follow him, I invite you to come do that. And I'll be right here. I'll talk to anybody who wants to come down and talk, and I'll lead you in prayer, and we'll just have a conversation, okay? But let's go ahead and stand up at this time, and let's just close in worship with these guys.
Oh, how high would I climb mountains if the mountains were with you high? Oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you graced the other side. Oh, how long have I chased rivers from lowly seas to where they rise, against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. And in the highlands and the heartache, you're neither more or less inclined. I would search and stop at nothing. You're just not that hard to find. So I will praise you on the mountain. I will praise you when the mountain's in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I will praise you in the valley all the same. No less God within the shadows. No less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh. Oh, how far beneath your glory does your kindness extend the path, from where your feet rest on the sunrise to where you sweep the sinner's path. And oh, how fast would you come running if just to shadow me through the night, trace my steps through all my failure, and walk me out the other side. For who could dare ascend that mountain, that valley hill called Calvary, but for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. So I will praise you on the mountain, I will praise you when the mountain's in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh, sing whatever I walk through. And whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, and if ever I walk through the valley of death, oh, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. And whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, and if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. So I will praise you on the mountain, I will praise you when the mountain's in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I will praise you in the valley all the same. No less God within the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same.
And I just hope that you remember that right there. As we walk away from this series, as we face the fall and everything else that is to come, if you're up here on a high today, if you're down here in a low, wherever you are, don't forget your desperate need for God. When you wake up in the morning, when you lay down at night, remember you're dependent on Him. Let that just spur us to constantly step toward Him, just to get to know Him more, okay? That's my encouragement for you. I invite you, please come back and be with us next week. We're gonna be ramping up our kids. We're gonna have our kids in here for the worship part of the service, and just pray a blessing over them, over our teachers, over our administrators. So bring your whole family so that we can kind of prepare. School's already here. I know it's hard to believe, but we'll do that next week, okay? Great to see you guys. God bless you. You're dismissed.